Welcome back, everybody. It is that time of the week. It's another Wednesday night at 8 p.m. It is the Relationship Gumbo Podcast Live Edition. And I'm glad you're here. We are now live on YouTube only. No more Facebook, guys. So what I want you to do is make sure that you share this with everyone you know. We're talking about accountability. This is a topic that comes up a lot, but it's very seldom talked about. And I wanted to try to talk about some things that you guys can connect to. So what I want you to do is give me about 30 seconds. I'm going to make sure that everything is running the way it should be and is going where it's supposed to go. So give me 30 seconds and I will be right back. Stand by.
Okay, everybody wants good love, that's true, I know. Derek Jones about to break it down with the Relationship Gumbo. Welcome to the podcast. Ain't no doubt we all need this, ayy, cause better relationships need better ingredients, ayy. So if you want better relations, it's about communication, finding love, staying together. We all wanna make it better, yeah. Derek Jones, the host, your relationship coach. Thank you all for tuning in. Relationship Gumbo, ayy.
All right, it looks like we good to go. Make sure you say hello. Make sure you put your comments in tonight. And if you have anything to add, I will definitely make sure I add it in while we are live. So without further ado, like I said, we're going to talk about accountability tonight. If you are here for the first time, what I normally do is I will pause for 3 seconds because this is an audio podcast as well. So I will pause for 3 seconds. Then I will start the podcast, and at the end of the podcast, I will pause for another 3 seconds, and then we will head on out of here. So without further ado, give me those 3 seconds, and we will get started. And welcome to another episode of the Relationship Gumbo Podcast. My name is Derek Jones, and I am your host. I'm a certified life coach, an engineer, a strategist, and a mental health advocate. And tonight's topic, it's the accountability for me. We're talking about accountability, ladies and gentlemen. And it's a topic that comes up a lot, especially, if you are in a relationship or not in a relationship, whether it's a friendship, even in your family. Are we accountable for our actions? Are we accountable for the things that we say we're going to do? Right? And I know that's a big topic in a lot of households. Like, are you doing what you say you're going to do? And that rabbit hole goes deep. And I want to make sure that we touch on a couple of accountability topics tonight. It definitely will not be all of them, but I want to touch on some of them that I think are very important for us to hear and listen to. And we're going to get it in. So, starting with ourselves, are we accountable for our own actions? And this is something that we really don't look at deep enough. Self-accountability. And then we have to ask the question, what is accountability? Right? What is it? If I'm supposed to hold myself accountable, what the hell is it? And it's really just about, like I said before, sticking to your word and also looking at how other people that you have in your life are you being held to the standard that you promised them? And then in turn, are they holding you accountable for the things that you promised? And these are things that I'm going to touch on tonight. And I want you guys to really pay attention to this because it's some things that I'm going to talk about that you really probably need to do some self-evaluation because we always talk about that on this show. So the first bullet point is going to be, are you holding yourself accountable for your actions? And are you accountable for the things that you say, the things that you promise? And so here's a little, not a tangent, but here's a way that you can kind of look at this, right? Let's say you're out here dating, and we always talk about people who are out here dating that are hurt people, hurting other people. I also want to talk about the Black community because I'd be disingenuous if I didn't. When we talk about hurt people hurting people, when we talk about men hurting women, women hurting men in our own communities, And then we go out and go to a Black Lives Matter march, or we cry when someone gets, killed by the police, or someone gets killed by some other means. And we pray and we talk about it, and we get pissed off about it because some things are going wrong in our community. But sometimes we have to be accountable for our own actions. And a lot of us have been guilty of hurting people. But what we don't realize, and I talk about this on the show, how do we promote family? How do we promote love? How do we promote Black lives, Black families? And we're the culprits for destroying the people that are supposed to be in those families. It's the accountability for me. We have to really do some self-reflection on how we show up in these relationships, how we show up even when we're dating. And are we responsible and accountable for the things that we do to other people? You got to think about that. As we're out here, a lot of us making other people pay for the crimes that someone else committed before in a relationship. Are we getting back because somebody hurt us a long time ago and everybody else gonna catch it? We're destroying lives out here. And then in the same vein, we're also out here marching and championing lives that we don't have any connectivity to, like a George Floyd. We may not be related to him, but we feel it because he looks like me. But then we go on dates with people that look like us and we treat them like crap. And we're not accountable for our actions. And we hope that when we walk away, that the damage goes away, right? I told you this rabbit hole goes deep because I was just having a conversation with my wife, even just, I want to say, either was yesterday or this morning, about the detachment and how we treat each other as Black men and Black women, and how we kind of are at odds and fighting and doing all this other stuff. And we really need to get back to trying to champion Black love and Black families so that we can grow and prosper and partner and collaborate. And like I said, in the same vein, we're out here destroying each other. And we don't realize that one person that we hurt is a part of a family. And that dysfunction, it's almost kind of like a vampire, right? If I destroy you, then your energy and everything else that I've destroyed now affects the environment around them. And it's a trickle-down effect because they may go and hurt someone else, right? So we have to really take a step back and look in the mirror and look at, are we really accountable for our actions? And have we really sat back and looked at our actions and how they not only affect ourselves, but how they affect the people around us and the environment around us? So if you're out here being player, right? And I'm not your judge. I'm just here because when I was out there, I didn't have a voice telling me it was wrong. When you out here being player, whether you a woman or a man, what's the end game? Are you destroying a family? Are you destroying a mother? Are you destroying a father because you're trying to make sure that you don't feel the pain? We have to take accountability for our actions because it has dire consequences. Because if I damage a female and then she goes on her life hating all men, I've just ruined her. And we walk away. Yeah, I'm spending a little bit of time on this because it's important. We can't turn back the clock, but we can move forward with better intentions and better decisions and better accountability for our actions, because this is something that people don't really pay that much attention to. How does what I do affect others, and what is it doing to me internally? That's why therapy is important. That's why coaching is important. Sometimes we don't have the answers, but we do know that we need to do better, right? So the next point, and like I said, I'm going to jump around some points here. It's not going to be all of them, but I want to make sure that you really get the meat and potatoes of what this is. The next point I want to make is, if you're out here dating, and I kind of just touched on this, I kind of slipped into this one. Are you holding not only yourself accountable for your own actions in dating and the things that you do and the things that you promise the other person that you're dating, but are you holding them, the person that you're dating, are you holding them accountable for their word? Or are you just letting them kind of slide by and do what they want to do because you're happy to be there? If they say that they're a certain type of person, if they say they're going to do something, they're going to show up and do this and do that, and it doesn't happen, are you holding them accountable for their word? And sometimes holding them accountable means you need to roll. You need to leave that situation because they're not a man or a woman of their word. It happens a lot. Are you calling them on their BS, if you will? Hey, you said you was this type of person. It doesn't look like that. Holding you accountable. And the boundaries and all the things that we talk about on this show come into play. You have to stand firm on what you believe in, your morals and everything else, even in the midst of being tempted by somebody that looks good in front of you. So not just personal accountability, but if someone's making a promise to you, you got to hold them accountable for that too. Because at the end of the day, it affects you in the long run. So think about that. It's not just you being accountable for your own actions, but when someone else comes into your life and they tell you they're going to do things and they're telling you they're a certain type of way, you got to be the one to say, that's not what you said, and we can't move any further because it doesn't add up. It doesn't match up. So think about that one. As you're out here trying to find and trying to receive and look for the person that you believe may be right for you, there's some checks and balances that need to happen on the accountability side, on both sides. You have to be accountable, and they have to hopefully be accountable for themselves. But as we know, a lot of people don't do it. So that's when you have to come in and be like, wait, that's not what you said. Wait, you said you was, going to do X and Y and Z for me, but you're not doing it, and it's early. I got to get out of here. This is not working for me. Because that's really the only way. Accountability, holding them accountable and having repercussions and consequences for bad behavior. Oops, I said that one. It's the same thing we tell our kids. It's consequences for your actions when you're not accountable for what you say or do. So I'm going to move away from that one, but just be mindful. You got to hold people. This is why I always talk about asking those pertinent questions early so that you have a baseline. And if they deviate from the baseline, then you have to hold them accountable. And like I said, I will repeat, sometimes holding them accountable means you got to get out of there. So we'll move to the next one because I'm going to run through these, but you guys really need to just pay attention to what I'm saying because we tend to repeat cycles. We tend to take our emotions and our pain, and it numbs the part of us that's supposed to be accountable for our actions, right? We turn that off. We turn the empathy off. We turn the sympathy off. We turn the thing that's supposed to make us be about our word. We don't care because I'm hurt. I don't care because all men ain't this and all women ain't that. So I'm just going to do me and do this and do that. There's a price to pay, ultimately. I always talk about this. So be careful, be mindful of how you treat yourself and how you treat others, especially when you single out here trying to figure it out. Because a damaged version of you, because you're making all of these crazy moves and not being accountable, you now have to show up when Mr. or Miss Right shows up. You don't really look that appetizing anymore. And whose fault is that? You got to hold yourself accountable for your own actions. The next topic I want to talk about is when you're in a relationship and you have a significant other, whether it's a marriage or a long-term relationship that you've committed to. I know that's a foreign word, a committed relationship. Are you holding your significant other accountable for the things that they say that they're going to do for you in the household? Because we always talk about being helpmates and partners and all these other kind of things. What you gain when you're in a relationship that should work for your good is also an accountability partner. I know it's the boogeyman, relationship, commitment, holding each other accountable. Ooh, yes, it can happen. And when you have that accountability partner, and we make promises to the person that we love the most, and then we renege on those promises, and what happens sometimes is because people, sometimes get frustrated in a relationship, especially if you promise something so many times, and a lot of us have done this, and that partner ends up just not even addressing it because they just don't even want to deal with it. And you, as the person who's making the promises, have to be accountable for what you say and how you show up in your own home. And the person that's in the home, you owe it to that person not to necessarily nag or go in and curse them out and all this other stuff, but you gotta in your own way, because you guys have worked on your communication. And if you haven't, you might need to get a coach. But you have to hold your partner accountable for the things they're going to say, because sometimes life happens. Sometimes you forget. Sometimes you're having a bad day. Sometimes you're depressed. Sometimes you're stressed out. And that partner should be there to number one, comfort you, but also say, hey, remember that thing that you said you was going to do? Remember that place you said we was going to go next week? What happened? And sometimes you need to, verbally, not physically, but verbally kind of shake them and say, hey, what happened? What's going on? Sometimes we need that. Sometimes we need that from our friends, right? Because sometimes accountability gets missed when we're dealing with things in our head, or we're dealing with things physically, and we don't necessarily share that information, and things get dropped. But there's always space and time for you to redeem yourself, as long as you take ownership of what you've done and be accountable for your actions. Okay? The next one is about friends. We had a show about friends last week. Your friends, and even your family. This one right here, I'm going to go a place that y'all probably don't think I'm going to go, but we going to go there because as a man, as a black man, and just someone that's just been out here, we have put ourselves in situations throughout our lives, and I'm saying we because a lot of us have, and whether we realize it or not, we've had friendships, we've had our crew of friends, and we knew that they were doing stuff that wasn't right. You got people cheating on their spouses. You got people just doing all kind of stuff, just hurting people. Remember at the top of the show, I talked about when we hurt each other, we're also taking little pieces of people and destroying it and then throwing them back out there in the world. And then on the flip side of it, we're championing love and families. And I'm going to go to the Black Lives. Do you really care about Black lives? Oh, it hurts sometimes to hear it. Do we really care about Black lives while we're destroying them? And we associate with friends who are actively doing just that. And we don't check them. Men, we don't check each other. We don't hold each other accountable. When we see our boy out here with the mistress and we chuckling it up, ha ha he he, we're contributing to destroying a family because we cool with them. Because we know them since elementary school. Ladies, I'm same deal. It's what are we doing? We are now an accessory to the crime. And we live and hang in that energy, and we're not holding them accountable. We're not even verbally even saying, what are you doing? As my friend, like, I don't respect that. What are you doing? We don't do that. We let it slide because that's our friend. And then we go out here and we watching TV, the young lady, rest in peace, that died today, the teenager, and we go and we get angry and we get mad because another life has been taken. But what you have to realize, and I keep saying this because this is really personal for me because I've been a part of the problem, at stages in my life, and I want to be part of the change. That's why I'm here right now talking about this. If we never because no one's perfect, whatever environment you grew up in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, we do have the opportunity to make things right. We have the opportunity to make better choices. And if you're listening right now and you're actively doing the behavior or you're actively condoning the behavior, you have the opportunity to make a different choice. Because I've been having these conversations over this past week with people and even in my house about how we're destroying each other, how we're fighting each other, how no one even wants to be in relationships anymore. We about to touch on that in a second. And what direction are we going in? Right? And what's our responsibility in the destruction of something that we all, I never thought growing up that people would just hate, wanting to be in relationships and love and all of that. Like, this is crazy. But I get it. You know why? Because the only reason someone would hate it is because they've seen pain before or they felt pain before. And then you have to ask yourself, where did that come from? We created this. If not you, someone you know. A lot of someones you know. And we have the opportunity to affect change today. That's why I do what I do. As a coach, this wasn't my trajectory was to be in a cubicle at a job typing on a keyboard. That's not my purpose. We each have a voice and we each can affect change. And I want you guys to realize that when we are out here selfishly doing this stuff, we are hurting families. Men, when you destroy a woman, she then, if she doesn't take time to heal, if she doesn't get therapy, she ends up being someone's mom. A dysfunctional mom and dad. The dad chooses not to be in the home. Whatever the situation is, you've then destroyed a child on the inside, and then that child goes out and possibly hurts someone else. We talk about this all the time. We have to be forward thinking when we do these things and hold ourselves accountable for our actions, because this is way more serious than we have generations coming behind us now that don't give a damn about each other. We don't care about loving each other, male, female, whatever you identify as. We don't give a damn. And that's dangerous for a community that's already in despair, for a community that's out here marching, for a community where kids are getting shot every day. And we talking about how much we hate it, but we're also part of the problem. And we got to stop doing that. I'm not a pastor or preacher or anything like that. Like I said, I was part of the problem. I talk about it all the time. It's not cool. It's not right. And there's always a price to pay, right? But we also, again, have the opportunity to change, to stop, to sit down. You don't have to be in somebody's face all the time. You can choose to self-reflect and chill. You have the opportunity to do that today. The other thing I want to talk about tonight, and I've had whole shows about this, and I've talked about this on Instagram, I think the last time I was on, last week, is about situationships and how this is a viable option for people. But we really don't understand what a situationship really represents. And it's a microcosm of how society looks at relationships, right? It's all about being hurt, and it's all about accountability. And I'm going to explain what I mean. When you choose to be in a situationship and you choose never to commit to a person, but you want to spend the time, the energy, and the effort that a relationship demands, you're telling the other person that we don't have titles and we're not really together, but I don't want you to see anyone else. The only reason to do something like that is out of A, fear. But here's the other piece to that. If I don't have any connectivity to you, I absolve myself of being accountable for my actions. I need for you to hear that. If I'm not your man, then whatever I do, if you don't like it, I don't have to be accountable for it. On both sides. If you don't have to be accountable for your actions, but you want to do a play relationship, and the person can't go be with anybody else, they can't date multiple people, it's an indictment on your character. And here's the caveat. I know that there's people out here that claim that they have zero emotion and they can move in these spaces and not ever care about the person. I don't give a damn. I'm just doing me. I'm a woman and I'm moving like a dude and all that, right? I get it. But where does that come from? Because some of you didn't always move like a dude. Something happened. Some of you men, y'all grew up seeing maybe some dysfunctional relationships, maybe your parents were married or whatever, but you're making a choice to say, I will never commit because I'm afraid of what that really means. If I commit, I'm going to have to be accountable. And if I'm accountable, then I might be a little vulnerable. And if I'm vulnerable, then the opportunity for me to get hurt is very high. And that scares me. So I am going to choose, and my partner are both going to choose, to not be accountable for our actions. That way, if something happens, we can leave and I'm not accountable to anything, but we also want to pretend like we're together. A relationship and anything, any goal you have is a risk. You have people out here that don't even want to call it a date because a date means you committed to doing something. Even something as small as a date, you can't even be accountable for that because no one wants to get hurt. But here's the thing. Are you really protecting yourself by being in a situationship for 2 years but claiming no connectivity? Are you protecting yourself from being hurt? Because you feel like you can just walk away because you didn't commit. But you're investing emotional capital. You're investing time. Did you really get away clean? Does the other party, if they don't like you one day, have the opportunity to just say, you know what? Don't really have no connectivity. Have a good day. And you're supposed to sit there and suck it up? Like I said, there's some of you out here that claim that this is how life should be. And I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the man or woman that really wants to have a loving relationship and they're settling for this because they feel like it's going to protect them from being hurt. Skirting accountability buys you nothing. Because think about it like this. Those of you who have college degrees, those of you who have attained some kind of certification, you're committed to it. It was a goal you had. It wasn't always easy. Sometimes you didn't get the grades you wanted. Sometimes you got pissed off. You didn't want to study, but you stuck it through. Because you knew the goal was worth it. But if you're moving out here thinking that no one is worth it, then you'll never commit to anything. You'll never be accountable to anything. And we'll settle for what we have now, which is a lot of crazy, dysfunctional, I'm afraid to commit to taking you to dinner. Don't matter who pay, because I know how y'all like to go now. We gon' pay 50-50, for the first 2 years and then see what happens to make sure. No, I get it. I'm not judging you, do you? You can't even commit to calling it a date because then that means you're moving in a direction. That's how people think. And once you do that, once you say, I'm not really looking for nothing, we'll see what happens. And then the other person says, cool, let's just see what happens. We're going to chill for the next 12 months and see what happens. What kind of contract are you signing verbally? You're signing a contract that says, I don't have to be accountable. And think about the person on the other side that may or may not want that type of situation, but they don't want to be by themselves, so they agree to it. And now they have to live life in moments. We had fun at the bar today. Cool. I really like the person, but I can't really say that I want to be with them because we said we wasn't. Like, you got to live in that personal hell. You catching feelings and can't do anything about it. And then on the outside, you got to pretend like you cool with rolling out of bed at 1 a.m. because you gotta go home because you can't spend the night because y'all ain't anything. Like, human beings, I implore you, we're not built to live that way. We're a connected creature. That's why I did the show last week about being, friendships, and we're supposed to connect to each other. Our friendships aren't even connected these days. They're compartmentalized, situational, seasonal. We don't even commit to even being friends, let alone relationships and dates. This is the direction that I'm seeing, and it's disheartening because I know we ain't built like this. Like, who don't want to be hugged on? Who don't want to have some? Who don't? I'm talking about friends too. This is why I always tell people, and I've never been to jail. I've seen it on TV. I know some folks that been. You know what they do to punish you? They put you by yourself. Why is that? You got to ask yourself, why is it a punishment to be put in solitary confinement for a long period of time and not be connected to anything? Because I'm a classic introvert, right? Well, I guess I would be what they call an ambivert because I'm on here live. But even an introvert need a hug. We can claim we could be by ourselves all the time, but that ain't really, nobody don't want that 24/7 the whole year. Because then who are you? So I need for you guys to think about that. I know I touched on some topics, but I need for you guys to understand and hear this. Think about the things that you say, the things that you promise, the things that you do, and what those repercussions are. Think about I'm going to just recap. Think about when you're going out here dating guys, women, and you out here sleeping with all these people and ghosting them and hurting them and doing all this stuff. What happens after you leave? Who does that person become when they're at home crying? And what is their outlook on building a family after that hurt? Who do they become as a future parent? Who do they become as a future wife? We can make better decisions. So I want you guys to walk away with that. I want you to sit back and reflect, meditate, do whatever you got to do, and think about how you're going to do better moving forward, starting right now, starting tomorrow. Who am I hurting? Who am I holding myself accountable to the things that I say that I'm going to do for myself? Personal development, personal responsibility, even for the things that you say you're going to do for yourself. Are you accountable to yourself? Are you accountable to your partner? Are you accountable to your kids? Are you out here destroying families, but then going out here marching and championing black love and black families? Stop being a hypocrite. Because death is a horrible thing. But sometimes hurting someone and that person having to live in their own personal hell is worse than death. And would you want to be responsible for that? Think about it. So on that note, I want you guys to make sure, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, subscribe and click the bell to make sure you get notifications. And go to www.relationshipgumbo.info to make sure that you connect with me on Instagram, because I'm popping up on there tomorrow. I'm going to put a flyer out just to say when I'm going, what time I'm going to be on there, but I'm going to pop up on Instagram. So make sure you camera ready, because you can come up and talk with me. We can have a conversation live together. So I put that together so we can engage each other. So make sure you interact on Instagram as well. And, big things are coming up next month. Really working hard on the online courses and making sure that the group session and everything is exactly the way you need it. So I'm doing that in the background, guys. But in the interim, I want to have fun with these shows, but I also want you guys to have things to think about. And today was a think about show. We're going to have fun, but I also need for you guys, I need for all of us to heal, grow, and do what we need to do. So come back tomorrow on Instagram. Let's have some fun. Let's laugh. Let's learn some things, and let's heal. So on that note, podcast portion is over. You guys have an amazing rest of your week and weekend, and be safe. Take care of each other. Take care of your families. And I will see you next week, same time, same place. All right, guys, podcast portion is over. I will see you guys next week, and be safe.
Okay, everybody wants good love, that's true, I know. Derrick Jones about to break it down with the relationship gumbo. Welcome to the podcast. Ain't no doubt we all need this, cause better relationships need better ingredients, so if you want better relations, it's about communication, finding love, staying together. We all wanna make it better, yeah. Derrick Jones, the host, your relationship coach. Thank you all for tuning in. Relationship Gumbo.